afternoon, and thank you for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva. 4-H is America's largest youth development organization. Through its commitment to community, hands-on learning, and empowering young people, 4-H boasts a legacy of leadership and a commitment to agriculture, from 4-Hers to their parents to volunteers and others who believe the 4-H pledge of head, heart, hands, and health. Today we're going to visit with someone who spent the last year running a 4-H program called YAY, short for Youth Empowered Through Agriculture. The program takes place in Brattleboro, and when she's not being the head cheerleader for YAY, she is a state representative from Windham County. Welcome, Michelle Bos-Lun.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in. So we'll talk about your day job in a minute, but talk about the YAY program and how you got involved.
I am a state legislator, which only keeps me busy for work in a full-time basis half of the year. So last spring, I was looking for what I was going to do in what we call the off session between June and December, and I found this very intriguing posting about a position working with youth, teaching them about farm and food careers, culinary experiences, wellness, all kinds of good stuff. And I thought, wow, that looks really intriguing. And then I looked into it, and originally I thought I could maybe just do it for 6 months and then go back during the off, switch around right. When I was in the legislature. And they said, oh, no, we need this to be a year-round job. But it turned out the more I talked to them, the more this felt like a position that I really wanted to give a try. And so I ended up doing it with reduced hours during the legislative session and went for the full school year.
What was your decision? Were you a 4-H'er as a kid? Did you work in food systems?
Well, I mean, it's more my individual passion, I would say. I actually did not grow up with 4-H. I have cousins that were in 4-H. I had family friends that were in 4-H. But I myself am a home gardener. I like to can, I like to ferment, I like to forage for mushrooms. I mean, I'm interested in food in all different kinds of forms, right. And I'm also a pretty passionate cook. And so I'm also interested in the connections between health and wellness. And so trying to sort of translate what I know about food and wellness and help kids think about local food and food systems and consider maybe getting into that system in a way that could help produce more local food for the benefit of everybody, that was just really appealing to me.
What did the kids know when you took on this project? Did they know where their food comes from? All the things you just said, did they know all that stuff?
The program that I worked in is a little bit different. There's a number of different YAY programs, but my particular program, the population that was focused on was special education students in Brattleboro.
Okay.
And that particular group of students actually have a social worker who works closely with them, who has a farm and has a huge passion for farming. And so she definitely had introduced the students to some of these ideas. They had visited farms, they had done some small growing of starts in the classroom and things along those lines. But certainly their experience and exposure to food and food systems has expanded exponentially in the last year with the help of this grant and this position.
And food's a great way to teach people about all sorts of aspects of their community and life and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
You serve as a member on the House Ag Committee for Food Resiliency and Food Resiliency and Forestry Committee.
Agriculture, food resiliency,
and forestry.
Yep.
Yes. Does this community, does this gel with what you were doing with the 4-Hers or with the YAY program?
Yeah, it actually overlaps quite a bit. I mean, there were a number of times in the spring where we had testimony from people who came into my committee in the House who were talking about things that I had talked about with the students. And so it was a very interesting overlap where we would be talking about seasonal produce and what kind of things are ready and how might things be impacted by tariffs if things are changed. And suddenly they were in my committee room and then I could go tell the students. So I actually had a little bit of an advantage, I think, compared to other 4-H special educators, because I had people coming and giving me testimony that was actually really useful to help the students have a broader understanding.
I won't ask you who is smarter when it comes to those food issues. What is the connection for you between serving the people of Northern Windham County and the people, it was a high school you said, right?
Brattleboro
So what's
High
the
School.
Connection between the two?
I mean, there isn't a completely direct connection, but what I would just say is that, you know, I'm 58 years old, and all my life I've worked in positions working with people, primarily as an educator and sometimes in social services. And I would say being a legislator actually kind of overlaps with those responsibilities as well. I'm trying to help people learn and understand about our world and about policies that can make it better or worse, or learn about their struggles and see how we can help them. So I think almost all the things that I do, one way or another, it's dealing with people and how to help them be healthy and happy and thriving, one way or another. So that's kind of a loose, broad stroke, but I think that would be the connection between the two.
I think you're well suited for politics.
Sometimes I think I am, and sometimes I'm not so sure.
UVM Extension, among other things, but a tenet of the organization is to teach people where food comes from. We've been talking about that, and much of your work with 4-H involved these youth. Were they underrepresented? I would imagine that special needs technically would fall into that underrepresented in agriculture category. What did they know before working with you? You said that the teacher who has the program sort of has a farm and they've known those sort of things. What would you say their knowledge was?
Well, I mean, they definitely had a basic understanding of the connections between between seeds and weather, sure, and produce and local produce. I mean, they had some introduction because of their lovely social worker who worked very hard with them. But now they've had a much more extensive exposure. I mean, the social worker herself actually mentioned, we ended up going on at least a monthly field trip with the students this year. So they went to many farms, they went to sugar shacks and watched syrup boiling. They went to all kinds of different settings where agricultural work was happening and where they could think about, oh, would I want to work in a dairy and have a creamy stand on my booth, on my farm? Would I, what kind of role might fit for me with my interests? Right. And so certainly they had some exposure to those experiences before this program started, but they have a much broader sense of experience because of the possibilities that have come through this program. And
a great opportunity for kids and adults just to sort of go to a farm and see what a farm is like, because it's not what you've seen on TV. It's smellier, it's louder, yeah. It's all those things, but it's great career opportunities because, as you're saying, you don't have to just milk cows or just grow carrots. There's all sorts of other parts of the marketplace, if you will, that involve farming, right, in one way or another.
And one of the things that we focused on too in the program this last year was we established a pretty nice little kitchen that's not far from the special education classroom. So the students had a chance to do a lot of culinary experience with a lot of produce that they didn't know about. Like, so for me, and probably for you, you've probably eaten pesto 100 times in your life. I made pesto for the students. We made it together, actually, in September last year. It was one of our first cooking projects, and only one of them had ever tried it. So it was a chance for them to experience local produce in a different way, and hopefully maybe to replicate some of those things on their own, because a lot of them do have home gardens, sure, but they haven't necessarily utilized it in the same ways that, it could be a career one day.
Yeah. Yay for yay. Yeah. You put forward legislation in the past session. It was, I want to get this right, H167, Vermonters Feeding Vermonters. This bill passed and was signed by the governor. Talk about what that bill does for Vermont.
Right. That is a bill I'm really proud of. I was not the primary sponsor, but I was a co-sponsor. And basically, it enables us to continue a program that is run by the Vermont Food Bank, actually. And what it does is it provides support to farmers by designating certain agreements with them, which will then guarantee them income for some of their produce or for proteins. It's not only for produce. And once they get those secured contracts, they then take those food products and are able to distribute them at places that will share the food with food insecure individuals all around the state. So it gives farmers a secure market, and it gives food insecure individuals a chance to have local produce and proteins, which are the things that are most asked for when people come into a food bank. They don't just want to get rice and cereal. Right. They want local produce and they want local proteins. And this is a win-win. It's good for farmers and it's good for people to get healthy food.
Definitely sounds like a win-win. You also worked on S60, which is the Farm Security Fund. It passed the Senate and your House committee, but it's still in process of being approved. Are we just in the process of, I think I saw a cartoon about that, this is how a bill becomes a law sort of thing? Is this just the process? It takes time?
I hope so. I mean, the truth is we were very optimistic at the beginning of the year that we would get it all the way through and maybe fund it with a smaller amount than had originally been requested. And it turned out by the time it got to the final step before it passed out to be voted on by the House, which is the Appropriations Committee, the funds just weren't there with the state budget. And so the bill is not dead. but it's waiting. I mean, in legislative speak, it's on the wall. At the end of this 1 year, it's waiting on the wall, but we still have a whole nother year to go. So we're actually pretty optimistic that next year it will rise to the top, and before the session is resolved, we will actually be able to start the fund, put some funds in it, and be able to help farmers with, and actually foresters as well, with some emergency relief funds due to natural disasters and things like that.
Okay, I was going to ask you, the Farm Security Fund sounds like I can get that from context clues, but it helps out for natural disasters.
Things like floods, but also for weather disasters. You know, we've had these early frosts. We've had a lot of changes that have impacted life for farmers in some pretty dramatic ways in the last 10 to 20 years. And things like FEMA are very slow in responding, if they respond at all. And so we wanted to provide some resources that would help make more security. I mean, it's the Farm Security Act, and we're still hopeful we can do that, but the truth is the budget is really tough right now. And so that part is out of our hands, and we keep asking and keep hoping, and I'm hopeful that next year we will be able to pass.
It's on the wall, though.
It is. It's on the wall. It's not dead. We've got next year.
Got just about a minute left, Michelle. I'm guessing many folks were talking politics, which is usually a lane we stay out of on Across the Fence, but I'm thinking people in our audience are wondering whatever happened to the art of compromise. So now that we have a legislator on set with us, what would you say to folks who are like, can't you people just get along? Can't you come to a consensus? And we're talking local politics, not federal politics.
Yeah, what I would say in Vermont is that we do a much better job than the federal government in general. I also would say that the Agriculture Committee in the House is a really good example of how people can work together to reflect our common values and reach common goals. My committee is made up of 4 Democrats, an independent, and 3 Republicans, and we've passed all but one bill out of our body unanimously. We talk about issues, we care about farms, we care about people, we care about food, we care about trees, and we cooperate. There's no party labels involved in trying to meet those common goals. And I think, honestly, we would all be well served if we could have more of that.
Well, thank you very much. Common values, common goals. I like that very much. Michelle, thank you for coming in and talking with us today.
Glad to be here.
I want to thank everyone here at WCAX who makes our program possible. I'm Keith Silva. This is Across the Fence. Thanks for being part of our family.